Hello, and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at relating fractions and decimals. This is Readiness Practice 4.2G Intermediate version. If you're interested in exploring the 4.2G Readiness Practice for the proficient or advanced versions, or for the Readiness Practice aligned with any other standards, you can find them by using the link in the video description. So our first problem here has a baking contest, and Sarah's cake receives a score of 9.3, or 9 3/10 out of 10. We need to write her score as a mixed number. Now I've got two different numbers here. I've got 9 3/10 out of 10. And really, we don't need this last part. This right here is her score. 9 3/10. And so sometimes we'll get some information in a problem that we don't really need. Out of 10 just means what the highest possible score is. But what is her score? 9 3/10. Well, let's put that on a place value chart. So 9.3, we can think of this as my ones place. So I'm going to put the value right there. And then there's two different ways that I can envision this 3. So one would be viewing it as a decimal, 0.1 1/10. Probably what's going to be more helpful for us in this situation is viewing it as a fraction. I could also write it as 1/10. And that's going to help me as I'm writing this as a mixed number. So when we have a mixed number, we have a whole number. So we're going to put that right here. And then what we need to do is we need to write the decimal 0.3 3/10 as a fraction. And if we can say it like that, 3/10, then we can write it exactly like we say it. So 9.3 is the same as 9 3/10. And that 3/10 is our fraction. The 9 is the whole number. That's what makes it a mixed number. Next, we have two different distances, 2.9, 2.09. We need to write these measurements as mixed numbers. All right, so let's do that same thing. And let's put our two numbers here on place value charts. So we're going to start right there. 2.9 is really, that's 2 that is in the ones place. Then I'll do what I did last time. That 9 is in the tenths place. I can write it two different ways. So really, when I'm saying that, I need to say 2 and 9/10. That's going to be the most helpful. And then this second one is 2.09. 2 and, here's my tenths place. But this second digit after the decimal, the 9, is in the hundredths place. And so we can write that as 0.01, or 1 out of 100. All right, so let's write both of those now as mixed numbers like we did the first problem. So 2 and then 9/10, let's write that as a fraction. So 2.9 is the same as 2 and 9/10. Now this other one still has a 2 as the whole number, still has a 9 as the numerator of my fraction, but my denominator is different because that 9 is not in the tenths place, it is in the hundredths place. So I'm going to write it as 2 and then 9/100. So the 2 and the 9 are similar. The denominator for both is slightly different. Now, for number 3, we need to do the opposite. We are starting with an improper fraction here. So I've got 125/100. I need to turn that into a decimal. Well, let's turn this into a place value chart. So I'm going to write a place value chart. You always need a ones place. Even if there's nothing there, you're going to put a 0. And so I'm going to go ahead and put my tenths here. Then I'm going to put my hundredths right here. All right, so what we can't do is we can't write 125 right there. That's not going to work. We can only put one digit per place value. Now, how this works is we need to go to the hundredths place because that's my decimal right there. That decimal that you see, the 0.01, lines up with that 100 as my denominator. So that's the place that I'm going to because that's my denominator, the hundredths place, the 1 over 100 or the 0.01. I need to figure out where the 1 and the 2 and the 5 go for the 125. And so we can't shove all of them into one place value. That looks strange. So here's the trick when we're dealing with this. The final digit, the 5, goes in the place of whatever denominator you have. So I'm going to write my 5 right here because the final digit is in the place of the denominator, which means I'm going to build the rest of my number one digit at a time to the left. So my 2 goes next to my 5, and then my 1 goes next to my 2. So I have 125 over 100. Looks like that's equal to 1 and 25 hundredths. Now, how do we know this for sure? Well, 125 over 100 is an improper fraction. So if that's an improper fraction, we could also write it as a mixed number. So let's see what that looks like. So if I want to write this as a mixed number, what I want to do is I want to take out a whole unit. Okay, so let's take this 100 out of 100 out. And I want to rewrite that as a whole. So 100 out of 100 is a whole. I want to take 100 100ths from my 125 100ths. So that's going to leave me with 25 hundredths left over. Because I took my whole, these two go together here. I took my whole out, 100 out of 100, and I renamed it as a whole. That left me with 25 out of 100. Now, take a look at what I wrote. 1 and 25 over 100 is the same as 1 and 25 hundredths. So these two are equal. And so it is okay for us to write a whole number because we have an improper fraction, and that means our fraction is going to be greater than 1. Our decimal is going to have at least a 1, possibly more, in the ones place. So this is our answer to our third problem. If you are interested in looking at the 4.2G readiness practice for the proficient or advanced versions, or for the readiness practice resources aligned with any other standard, you can find them by using the link in the video description.